Hi everyone, welcome back to brewery.com. Today we have the pleasure of talking about craft beer with Mark Seary, owner of the MorrisseyHouse pub here in London, Ontario. Thanks Mark, thanks for making some time for us today. I know you're very busy.
Anytime.
So you've been a craft beer purveyor and supporter for a very long time now.
Very long.
So we do appreciate your time and also your thoughts and perspectives and opinions on the current industry.
The only one to do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. So one thing we'd like to know about her, there's probably a couple things, but first thing is with all the activity in the industry right now, a lot of the big beer companies buying out the smaller craft brands, such as like the Mill Street buyout, Baby InBev, Miller Coors buying out Goose Island, all that sort of activity, and they're even coming up with their whole divisions that are focused on expanding their premium beers and craft beer portfolio. Just wondering about your thoughts on that regarding the local Ontario craft beer market, what the future kind of holds in store for that market, knowing that the microbrewers are popping up every day. These two markets are kind of converging, and where do you see the local market going?
Well, I think number one, those purchases and buyouts have always happened. Like Oland, like way back in the day, bought by Labatt's, and all of a sudden we've got Keats. Once those interprovincial barriers came down between provinces, all of a sudden it was the big guys looking for more. And it's not just the big guys buying little guys, it's big guys buying big guys too. When Diageo, they kind of owned everything for a while, and they always had those antitrust things when Boddington's wasn't when it was a Labatt brand, they couldn't be like they had to get rid of something else because they had Boddington. So it's nothing new in this business. I think for the future of it, I think they're probably, not to disparage on the craft brewers right now, but I think Moms and Hops website yesterday said that I think we've hit the 300 mark in Ontario, which I think last year we had like 180, including contract brewers and all that kind of thing. There are probably some craft guys going in looking for that buyout, and trying to get big enough to make it worthwhile for somebody to come in and look at it. And I think that's probably more prevailing in the States right now. And you see a lot of, like Lagunitas. I couldn't believe Lagunitas got bought. I used to follow him, well, I still do, but followed him on Twitter. And it was amazing to me how much vitriol he had for the big guys, and then all of a sudden it's like, everything comes with a check. And fair enough, like same thing in Mill Street, like you build that brand, you want to expand your brand, you want to, obviously you're in this to make money, not just for the art of the making of the beer. And I know there are people that do that too, but they're not doing it on their own dime.
Yeah.
And so in Mill Street, they had the pubs, they expand to Ottawa. They want to get in the Quebec market, they want to get it west, they want to get in the States. And it's not like banks are financing anything in this industry, so we better go to one of the big guys.
Yeah, for sure. And it's to your point, it's not just the older guys like you saw, they've been around for 22 years. Right. It's also, there's a bunch in San Diego that are just a year and a half, 2 years in, and they're getting purchased up because they've got a good brand.
The one thing, and I don't, it's not like, Goose Island certainly has changed, and no matter what they say, the brand has changed. It's brewed in Canada now, so that automatically makes it a different beer than what they were brewed in Chicago. Right. Keats, I think, has changed as a brand, and it's even all in export. It used to be every time I was out east, it was my go-to beer, but it doesn't taste the same. And nor could it. It's part of the beauty of the big guys. Like if you're in Halifax, your Keats will taste exactly the same as the Keats you buy at BC. Whereas you get like Railway City, for example, that that batch might not be exactly the same as the next batch. And no matter how many controls and how many taste tests and all the rest you do with it. But so yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of what happens.
With all this going on and you being a publican here, how do you keep up with this activity? How do you keep your patrons kind of fed, for lack of a better term, as far as the local craft beers? How do you stay on top of it?
Obviously there's only a few of us in town that are kind of focused so primarily on craft beer, and Milos does a great job down there. Toboggan, obviously they've got their own, but they've got 32 taps or something now.
The King Eddie is
the King Eddie, sure. But what we're seeing now is like, I had a friend open a restaurant 5 years ago, and he only had, and it was all farm to table. It was all Ontario ingredients. It was all like fresh. Their staff uniforms were green to kind of point towards that freshness. I won't tell you who it is. But the first time I had dinner there, they've got Keys to Blue and something else on tap, and I'm like, so how are you like going to Montfort Dairy, and yet you're not going to like Fort River, although they were around at the time, but something Ontario beer. And he was like, well, people didn't want to drink that. And I'm like, but they do, because I'm already open and I'm already doing it. And if you're doing this kind of food, then you should be pairing it with that kind of beer. If you're so gung ho on Ontario, so he's got it now, and that's what you're seeing. Almost everybody has craft beer,
right?
Almost everywhere,
paired together with the local.
Yeah, I mean it's a big movement, right? It's
Yeah.
that local economy. It's that spending $100 locally doesn't buy the CEO's third cottage and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have a cottage.
As the CEO of MorrisseyHouse.
Publican.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah, as far as keeping up, you read a lot. You listen to the patrons who, as they tour through the summer, and they're in Stratford, and they're like, have you heard about this brewery? Or in Brantford, have you heard about this brewery? Or, that one from Ottawa, or whatever it is. But yeah, you just kind of pay attention and then hope you find the right beers.
Right.
For us, we kind of try to do it. We've got, let's say about 6 taps that will always be, that's always going to be a Sawdust City tap. That's always going to be a Great Lakes tap. That's always going to be a Lake of Bays tap. Might not necessarily be the same beer the whole time,
right?
And they'll rotate. But then we've got another 6 taps that are always rotating. So we try to do it on a monthly basis. We try to do it seasonally, and we try to do it so that our menu doesn't get lopsided. So that all year round we've got, in the summer we carry more IPAs, and obviously in the winter we carry more dark. So we try to just kind of see what's out there, see what the guys are doing. The great thing now, and wasn't going on 5 years ago, is that everybody has seasonals.
Right.
And everybody's got one-offs. And so that's kind of hard to plan around unless you've got really good reps. The guys who are out there that know what's happening and will either email or pop by and say, in December, like Muskoka's got their winter beard coming out. Unfortunately, we only get a 20-liter keg of it. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, what's the point of getting it?
Last year's the weekend or something. Yeah.
And this whole territory gets like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Not even the weekend. I don't even know what 20 liters is. It's like full 35 glasses or something like that.
Yeah,
35 pints. So yeah, that's and so you listen to the customers, you listen to your staff, you listen and you see the sales and what sells and what doesn't. Right now, pricing is a big issue for me. In that, it always strikes me as funny when the beer store, last year when all that stuff happened and the beer store was like, their PR guy saying, "Oh no, Ontario's got the lowest beer prices in Canada."
And my thinking is that they're still setting the beer prices in the other provinces. Even though the beer store says, no, we don't set prices, the brewers set prices. I'm like, yeah, but Matt and Molson and Sleeman own the beer store.
Exactly.
They set the prices. They're the owner, they're the beer store. It's
Right.
the same. You can't distinguish between the two. And so we get that. When you see that $220 keg here, Labatt Blue, and you go to Detroit, Michigan, and it's $110
Yeah.
for something that was brewed in London, crossing an international border after being driven for 3 hours down the road. And so I think there are, it is right now, a lot of the craft guys are still doing what the market will bear. And to that point, like I had a friend open a brewery, and I won't tell you which city, but he wasn't looking at his margins. He wasn't looking at his return on investment. He was looking to find out what other guys were charging.
Right.
Again, fair enough.
Yeah.
And it is the business, but I think that's what I'd like to see once, it's kind of the same as Bell versus Rogers versus anyone else in the market. That government regulations that are kind of forming this oligarchy or oligopoly, and letting those few control the market.
Yeah, I think that's a big topic, and we could run a whole other film and interview on that one. I think there's a lot more going to happen there as well as they kind of get more pressure from
I think so.
from
I
around.
hope so. I don't think they did enough last time around.
No.
And like we said, it's I don't. On paper, it looks like the consumer's going to benefit from this so much, but I don't think that's the case. And
Lots of questions around that, right? There's lots of opinions that 20% shelf space was already there before, and it's no real change, and
they, making them spend $10 million on their stores, which they do a year anyway.
that's right.
It's nothing new. The grocery stores, to everything. Like the 12-pack sales versus 6-pack sales versus 4 6-packs costing more than a normal 2-4.
Yeah.
The one that affects us would be, the Kingsbury, for example. I think consumers probably about $31 right now, and for us, I think it's about $48.
Right.
And they said that they were going to fix that, and that restaurants would pay the same as what the people pay. Then they said it's only going to affect the restaurants that sell 250 cases of beer or less. I'm like, that doesn't really help us. Obviously, we had the big article about a year and a half ago when we kind of went all micro and dropped out of that brands. And, so there are other issues service-wise with the beer store that we went through. And so we don't get deliveries from the beer store anymore. But as you said, whole other topic. Whole other day.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to come there. I think, regardless, I think you've got the formula worked out here, because anytime I've been here, I've always had a good Ontario craft beer mixed with excellent meal from here as well.
Well, you want to keep it fresh, and you want to make it so that guy who's coming in, or that girl who's coming in, or that woman who's coming in, will have something new to try. And you've got your standards, and you're always going to need that. And the people that like right now, we've got the Great Lakes Blonde on, which is just an easy drinking beer. So that guy who comes in and says, "I'll have Canadian," or "I'll have a blue," and we're like, "Here, try that," and he's like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
So you get to, you certainly still have to have the beer for the masses, but then you get to play with the beer for the people who love beer.
And especially with all the social media, the apps out there, people are on the new stuff.
Yeah.
And really, mentioning else, you go in the beer store, you get maybe 10 or 20% of what the craft brewer actually produces from the brewery. You can actually access. So anytime yourself or anybody else who maybe goes to the brewery has a chance to try that other 80% of stuff they can't normally get, they're going to jump on that. So,
and they're still like left field. I've never had a left field beer. I'm dying to try left field beer. And I call them. And I'm like, "Hey, when you guys come to London?" And I'm like, "Not yet," because they don't have the distribution channels. to be able to do it. Host House, you know, award winning.
They're good. Yeah,
They're,
they were at the beer fest here in London. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I sleep in on that day.
Yeah.
So they don't come here. Silversmith, you know, we had them on tap for probably about a year. And then they don't come to London anymore because they just kind of wanted to concentrate on their Niagara region.
Right.
So, you know, when you can get those beers, you know, like Milos does a good job of that. Like going out, like he had, what did he have? I think Granite.
Yeah, he had. Yeah.
On cast last week. And that's a great get. But he also drives to Toronto for that.
Right.
You know, like they're not delivering. He's got helpers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That makes a big part of that. Yeah.
The guys who love beer, and then, but again, you know, it's a different business,
Yeah.
and his I think is more concerned with beer than mine is.
Yeah.
And if it was like that, then yeah, I'd probably drive to Toronto to get that beer.
Well, hopefully the market opens up and it's less of an issue, you know, going forward.
Well, again, I think that's part of the changes. You know, when they talk about allowing other brewers to deliver other beer, you know, that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Like,
agree.
Again, that goes back to the prohibition thing. Like that's why all of a sudden we've got craft beer everywhere, is because they changed that law that they could deliver beer instead of, and that was only 6-7 years ago.
That's right.
So just, you know, for us it was kind of a good time to kind of get into that market.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah.
Shrewd businessman.
No. There was the timing was right.
Yeah.
All of it serendipity.
Yeah.
All the way around again.
Well, speaking of timing, we're not going to keep you much longer. Really appreciate the sit down and just chatting. I know we've chatted from time to time before, so it was nice to actually sit down and have some concentrated focus on craft
They'll be
beer.
running away from you.
Yeah. And all our our followers at Brewbee.com appreciate this as well. So
Send them on down.
Yeah, so that's MorrisseyHouse, Dundas Street in London, Ontario. Any final thoughts or anything for our followers? No, you gotta.
Come on down. We'll talk beer.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks again, Mark.
All right,
Take
thanks.
care.